This is Twice Crispy, and you're watching Twice Crispy. Today's video is going to be all about how to get good at running. Do you commonly find yourself in situations where the killer is running you down in 15 seconds flat? Are you absolutely tired of trying to loop in gyms and end up face-planting into a sharp object? Are you the one in your Swift that's always getting down first, and then downed again, and then, damn it, downed again because you just can't run away from the killer well enough? Well, I say no more. Today we're going to learn how to run, how to loop, and how to make the killer say, I don't want to chase this guy anymore. First, I'd like to talk real quick about what this video is not going to cover. This isn't a guide on what perks to use. We're not going to go over map-specific tips, and this isn't going to talk about how to loop specific killers. We're talking about the core fundamentals of how to be a good runner. Alright, enough about what this video isn't, and let's go to tip number 1. Always have a plan. Doesn't matter if you're on a gen, a boon, healing somewhere, always have a plan for where you're going to go next in case the killer comes. In this instance, we're drawing kind of a lot of heat by having everyone pile onto one generator here. My short-term plan for when the night shows up is to vault the window to my left. Long-term plans kind of come based on the situation though. So even though I'm definitely going to vault this window to my left because it's the easiest to access, I don't know what I'm going to do until he actually gets here. Now since I'm haunted or whatever we call it, I forget, I'm going to make sure that I'm just holding Shift W because there's no way that I'm going to be able to loop effectively while I'm being hunted or haunted or whatever it is we call it. Now that I know I'm definitely going to have to Shift W, I'm going to try and make it to the main building so that I can run in there. By that time, I shouldn't be haunted or hunted or whatever we call it anymore. And thus, I should be able to loop effectively with just one killer after me. Unless he massively outplays me, in which case I'll just take a hit. Haha! However, I could have taken a hit much earlier had I not had at least somewhat of a plan formulated, and then on top of that, I made my plan flexible. Tip 2 is to have good pathing. After wiggling free, I could run across the street in the saloon. There's a pallet for me to drop, there's plenty of vaults, and main building is really safe on this map. The problem is that it's still kind of far away. He could catch me with a chain after I wiggle, and that would just slow me down. He would definitely catch me before I reach the window and the top of the stairs. Instead, I decided since I have Dance with me, I'm going to vault a window and break line of sight as soon as I can, and then I found this little upstairs spot on the balcony to heal up. Okay, so what about when you're in a dead zone? You're working on a gen, there's really no pallets or anything in the immediate area. What do you do about that? Well, just know you're probably going to take a hit. What you should be doing is plan to take the hit and then use the speed that you get from the hit to get to your next safe location. Tip 3 is to know your loops, and what I don't mean here is to just know every tile and the proper way to loop them. Sure, that's important as a foundation, but to really get good at running, you have to know what to do in a panicked situation where a killer's trying to prevent you from running in the most efficient way through a loop. Double backs are probably one of the most important techs in being able to loop a killer successfully for a long period of time in the same gym. Being able to realize that a killer's going to try and cut you off from the most efficient route and then do the opposite of what they want you to do is going to be huge to your success here. Being patient and looking for the red stain and then being agile enough to run the opposite way is the key to this. Most of the time a killer's going to force you to leave a loop, but sometimes you're going to loop them so goddamn hard they're just going to give up on you. If you're liking this video so far, please consider hitting the subscribe button as it'll really help me grow this channel. And what I really want to do is help everybody else get better at playing Dead by Daylight. Tip number 4, sometimes you just gotta walk. Alright, how the hell does walking help you become a better runner? Well, since you're out here leaving scratch marks all carefree and whatnot, sometimes it's good to just take a pause to walk and stop leaving scratch marks. Not every killer is going to be jukeable. And by that I mean you're not going to be able to spin and wiggle and do fancy crap against them. Some killers are just going to be that good that doesn't work. Sometimes the best thing to do is just break line of sight and slow down so you stop leaving scratch marks. Even if they find you again after a few seconds, it's probably going to be able to put enough distance between you and the killer that you can get to the next safe tile and keep looping. Tip 5 is to manage your exhaustion. This ties into tip 4 a little bit, but it's for a very different reason. Running around and being exhausted all the time sucks because when you need to use your exhaustion perks, you can't. The best thing to do here is to take breaks from using them, whether it be Dead Hard, Lithe, even Sprint Burst. Making sure you're able to use it when you absolutely need it is going to be key to winning chases. Sometimes you'll see people doing some wacky stuff like running in circles for seemingly no apparent reason. Well, let me tell you, I want to be able to run still without using my exhaustion perk Sprint Burst. As long as I keep my exhaustion 99s and then keep running, next time I get in a chase, I can stop for a split second, get that exhaustion perk back, and then take off a Sprint Burst away from the killer. Each of these perks will have its own unique way of managing its exhaustion, but generally speaking, running will keep you exhausted, and then doing other actions will let you start recovering that exhaustion. Tip 6. Greed pallets whenever possible. This is a pretty basic concept that a lot of people struggle with for some reason. They get into a chase, and they drop a pallet as soon as they get to one. It's actually a pretty terrible habit to be in, because as soon as you drop that pallet, that's no longer a loop. It's just a rock in the ground now. So you can't run around the rock in the ground anymore. You gotta leave. And most of the time, if you're not injured, you should keep the pallet up and try and keep running that loop. And lastly, tip 7, learn to spin and wiggle. One of the only ways you're going to be able to do multi-gen chases is if you learn to spin and or wiggle. I know most people have their preference to spins or wiggles, but honestly, it's good to do both because killers will know if you're going to wiggle because you wiggled last time, and you'll do it again, and you'll do it a third time. And if you spun last time, you're probably bound to spin again. And if you spun to the right, you're probably going to spin to the right again. Killers are going to see that stuff and come after it. So learning both is a good idea. You can learn to spin by pressing WASD or WDSA and then moving your mouse in the opposite way that you're rotating. This is going to make you do a 270-degree turn, which is almost a full circle. So you'll either be facing to the left or to the right of where you were initially looking based on if you turned to the right or to the left first. Wiggles are a little bit different, and quite honestly, I'm pretty terrible at them. To wiggle, you want to wait till a killer gets close to you and cut hard to either the right or the left, and then as soon as you think the killer's going to swing, cut back the other way. Hopefully the killer will be baited by your initial turn, and they'll swing into that, leaving you to run the opposite direction. Well, that's all the tips I have for this one. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.